far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 women growing strong. 100 women where you belong. You stood tall and now you see, you have reached your destiny. Woman, woman.
As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions toward decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. By Kay Johnson. Welcome to 100 ABC Fireside Chats. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold project initiated by co-authors and co-founders, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, Dr. Denise O'Neill Green, and Donna Jones Simmons. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as our website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. In addition to our fireside chats on topics that matter to our communities, such as education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, trade union, and so much more, we offer biennial book launching galas and biannual symposiums. The co-authors and co-founders would like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for attending today's fireside chat. We know that you will find these sessions educational and inspirational. So sit back, relax, and hear from our brilliant and talented honorees.
Welcome to this 100 ABC Fireside Chat on the topic Breaking Barriers in Tech and Innovation. My name is Sarah Nyango. I'm a broadcasting professional and a translator, and I will be the moderator for today's discussion. So COVID-19 triggered one of the most devastating economic crises in history and exacerbated the social and economic impact of job inequities for Black women. However, the pandemic also presented unique opportunities for tech workers, with many people's daily lives taking place online, and as businesses increasingly rely on online ordering and service channels, tech workers are becoming a critical component of most industries. So while 4.3% of Canada's population is Black as of 2023, Only 2.6% of Canada's tech sector is comprised of Black Canadians and new immigrants, particularly Black women. Right now, Black women in Canada are underrepresented in the tech sector, with attendant effects on their socio-economic status. So, we're going to be having a discussion with our seasoned panelists on how they are navigating challenges, fostering inclusion, and creating opportunities for future leaders in the tech sector. And I really look forward to their insights, especially on AI, digital equity, and mentorship. Karine Cohn-Sanchez is an award-winning author, international scholar, and consultant specializing in social consciousness, identity, and power within institutional and transnational contexts. Her work bridges critical sociology, diasporic studies, and equity-focused research, examining how awareness, culture, and resistance shape lived experience and collective outcomes. Dr. Nikki Clark is an award-winning media executive, educator, and author, founder of the Nikki Clark Show, and winner of the Canada Choice Awards 2026 for media and entertainment. She leads the Nikki Clark Network, which is a hub for video production, coaching, and digital storytelling. She also owns Navan, an online women's fashion store, and as a fellow of the Institute of Information Management, she combines media expertise, entrepreneurship, and technology-driven innovation to amplify diverse voices. Welcome, ladies. One thing I forgot to add about myself is I'm a 2018 100 ABC Women honoree, and both of you are honorees as well. We'll start off with Karine. So, as the researcher and scholar, would you be able to provide or help us unpack some of the jargon around concepts linked to equity and inclusion in the tech sector? So people hear the terms digital literacy, digital equity. What does all that mean?
Yeah, they're big terms and they usually are driven by people that are already in the field. So just to
Mm,
start off, technology does not exist outside of society. It reflects existing power structures and inequality and values. So the tech sector often presents itself as a meritocratic and innovative, yet sociological research shows that inequality reproduces itself digitally, if not intentionally disrupt. So equity and inclusion in tech are not therefore technical problems alone, but they're social and cultural and structural ones. So when we're talking about technology, we also need to talk about access, the voice, the visibility, the power structures, and so forth. So digital literacy, like if we break it down sociologically, it includes critical evaluation of information, understanding how algorithms shape visibility. We'll talk a little bit more about that after, and I can give concrete examples about that. Knowing how data is collected, used, and monitored. So literacy is therefore about agency, not just skills. In terms of sociology, when we look at that concept, we're looking for unequal digital literacy. What does it create? It creates unequal participation in the digital economy. Those without it becomes consumers rather than creators. So digital literacy determines who participates, who profits, and who remains invisible. So if we're comparing digital access to digital equity, the important distinction to unpack would be digital access
mhm.
is having a device or an internet connection. Digital equity, having the condition necessary to meaningfully benefit from those technologies. So what are some example affordable tools, safe digital spaces, reliable brand, broadband, cultural relevance, training, mentorship, time, stability, institutional support. I can go
Right.
on.
No, that's already, but I mean, we can bring in more terms as the conversation
Yeah.
goes along as well. Um, so Nikki, you are a practitioner, an entrepreneur in this field. Can you give the audience an, just a taste of, your journey in the tech sector, and then the barriers that you faced?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, and good afternoon to everyone. Um, I also should share that I am a 2022 recipient of the 100 ABC, and very honored to be a part of this incredible legacy. So, to be very transparent, I left teaching to start in the media space, and that would have been 17 years ago. I was an instructor and had an opportunity to go on an online TV station, which intrigued me because I was learning all about the internet, what it meant, the way that it carried information, seemingly without barriers from one point to the next simultaneously. So this was very revolutionary for me. So I went on and I did an interview, and within a couple of days, I was approached with the idea of starting a show on that platform. And I said, okay, let me think about it. And I came back with this idea to invite artists from all over the GTA and beyond to come on in that little studio space. I would sit at a desk with a mic, and then on the other side would be the invited guest. And we would talk about their origin story. And then they were also invited to perform live. So this was my idea. And it was received well by the production house. But then I had to find out how to actually get guests on the show. So I sent a message on Facebook on my time feed. And mind you, I was kind of transitioning from teaching into this role. I had not quite understood what I was doing, as kind of this was going to be my role, or this is the space of business that I was going to do. It was actually just a fun thing that I was taking on. Monday to Friday, I was Miss Nikki Clark, but I was given a slot on Saturdays at 8 p.m. and I took on a media persona and called myself Nix on the Mix. So Nix on the Mix, 8 p.m. Saturdays, keep it locked. So that was my tagline. So I had the system set up. I had the slot. Now I needed guests. So I sent a message on Facebook. This is before Instagram became the gram. Kind of this way of connecting different parts in simultaneous seams. And I got a message from a young man, 19-year-old Abel, that was his name. And he said, Miss Nikki, I'd like to come on your show. So we set it up. He came on the show. He spoke about his origin story growing up in the Ossington area of Toronto. And he performed a cappella live. And everybody's mouth dropped to the ground. And then it turned out that maybe a decade later, Sarah, that he was the internationally known singer-songwriter, The Weeknd. So this little hobby on Saturday turned into something that I was not expecting. It was actually becoming a hub for artists. I was getting invitations and requests from Asia, the United States, different record labels that I had great esteem for were reaching out to me to support their artists. And I thought, this is something that I really need to take a leap of faith and to focus on, because it's more than just a whim or a hobby. I think there may be destinies tied to it. So I made a tearful decision the end of 2009 to stop teaching, and I entered into the media space full time.
Mhm.
It was incredible. So here I am. I jump head first into this position because I was just so full of the passion, and I was overwhelmed with all the interest that was coming my way. but I needed to build the system properly. I needed to understand the funding part of it. I needed to understand marketing, and I needed to understand what this internet tool was for disseminating information. So this is when I had to do the research. I had to do the work to see how I could apply it properly. I made some mistakes. I also learned a lot of wisdom from these mistakes. But to answer to the question where barrier is concerned, entering into this space as a woman and a Black woman, I encountered a lot of, I think, pushback or voices that would challenge me in terms of being being serious about what I was doing. I think there was a lot of questions and scrutiny about my place there. If I understood what I was doing, if there was credibility in what I was proposing. So there was that, is she serious? Can we take her seriously? And
Skepticism.
there was skepticism,
Mhm.
and then there's also the other layer too of why her, and who made her, this Oprah. They would call me the Oprah, Canadian Oprah, and who appointed her. And then there's the other level of I was told that if I looked a certain way and if I showed my assets from kind of a male perspective, that I could get more views. So there were different layers of barriers that I encountered: the funding, the skepticism, and also I would, call it like it is. There was a bit of misogyny.
Yeah.
So these were all the lessons that I learned, and I've been able to kind of package them and to very gently guide people through mentorship that
Yeah.
I've created later. And we'll talk about that.
Yes, we will. Thanks for that. And Karine, your journey into, researching equity inclusion in this space.
I think the main thing that we need to, I guess, take into consideration and create awareness is that inclusion is not representation alone. So we always have to ask ourselves these questions: who is invited into decision making? Who shapes innovative priorities? Who receives funding? Who assumes to be technical, or who assumes to be the expert? Dr. Nikki made reference to a couple points that I think it's important to discuss: opportunities and credibility. Your credibility is determined based on your appearance, unfortunately, and they have labeled and categorized that: women of color, ageism, also physical appearance. All these factors play a role on how they determine whether you are credible. Sociologically speaking, there's been a huge discussion over power and who decides who assumes this power and who doesn't assume the power. So when we go through tech industries, or when we assess technology and we do a quick research on ChatGPT, just reusing that right now, we have to question ourselves: critical thinking, because ChatGPT doesn't provide that. We have to critically think that information that I just uploaded, is it reflective? Is it accurate? Is it realistic of the society in which I live in? Because we have to take into consideration that algorithm is based on power. Algorithm is based on who's visible, who's not visible in the research sector, in the research ecosystem. Which research get heard, which research gets seen, which research receives knowledge mobilization that gets distributed around. So we have to think about these factors when we're assessing what is real and what is not real. And what AI has brought to us has brought that notion. How do we determine what's real and what's not real? What is reflective of real lived experiences and what is not? I think we need to have discussions around what is reality at this stage, because it has manifested itself in so many different facets. And we are not aware, or not using our intellectual abilities or capacities. We have consumed ourselves and relying on AI as a real factual component of social issues that are going around the world. So in terms of sociological stand, we have to take into consideration algorithm can reproduce bias. AI reflects training data. Venues Venture capitals follow a familiar network, and innovative often mirrors privileges. So we have to, when we're able to have these critical ways of reflecting and create a sense of awareness and consciousness, we will become aligned with the information that we are seeking. So don't take everything as face value. We have to question the authenticity of the information that's being presented.
So the generation that's currently, let's say, in high school, I mean, Nikki, Dr. Clark, you're a teacher. Is the education system equipping students with this kind of critical thinking adapted to our current and future digital realities?
Another question for myself.
Yeah. So who's who? Are we just opening, just answering, or?
Well, whoever feels comfortable answering it first.
I think I'd like to
Yeah.
answer the question, and I do see that there's a lot of technology used in the curriculum, and I do see from my own experience working with cooperative students in high school that the educators are allowing tech as a career pathway for students. So that's why they kind of link arms with me so that they can learn hands-on, video production, graphic arts, and for those who want to be in front of the camera, broadcasting skills. I think from what I see, the students that I encounter, like, between the ages of 14 and 16, they're extremely adept at understanding trends through different social media outlets. I'm trying to keep up with them, so I love working with them so I can stay fresh. But this is just something that perhaps it was, enhanced through the experience of COVID. A lot of the COVID kids, I like to call them, what did they do for interaction? They were on their phone. So as an outcome of this constant stimulation through the phone, they're learning different ways to connect with their friends, and they're also being bombarded with new information on how they can interact, how they can be entertained. So once they learn that, they bring these skills to me, and okay, let's try it. I'm always open to seeing what new creativity can come from the new technologies. So,
Dr. Conchanta?
For me, I view it from a different lens. In terms of higher learning, I would view it more in terms of what I tell my students, and which I've done in the past sometimes. I tell them, you can use AI to look over your essays. That is, I want you to keep the original written portion of the essay that you wrote, and the reflective piece. So what I get them to, I force critical thinking in the sense is, how do you journal how you felt after this lecture that was given to you? Just jot it down. Just write your notes, write words, write whatever. It doesn't need to make sense. I won't see it. Then write it into, like, let's say if I say quickly, weekly intakes in terms of reflectivity in terms of an assignment, let's say. Take that, write the assignment, but I want you to always reflect back to that journal and see how you felt when you finish reading the article, or when you finish hearing me having a lecture about lived realities about marginalized groups, or about data, the absence of data in Canada, which is very, very prevalent because that's huge. And healthcare, the disparities in healthcare, the inequality in this and this and this. How do you feel when you're hearing these information? Just write it down. It does, like I said, it doesn't need to make sense. Draft your weekly report, like I asked you to draft the weekly report, but compare and contrast your own notes to your own self. You hold yourself accountable in that sense. You've done a reflexivity exercise that you were not even consciously aware of. You've held yourself accountable in terms of what information AI has generated that looks good for me to grade. I get that. But also you are looking at the information of authenticity, exactly how you felt at that moment after the lecture was given. That is how I force creativity and I force critical thinking to take place within the classroom setting. There's various techniques, there's various ways of doing it. It depends on the lecture you're producing, and it also depends on the information, that the topic of discussion, but there's always a feeling that comes after a conversation. Whether I'm lecturing, whether you're reading, keep track of that feeling, because that feeling is what's going to determine your growth and your evolution in the process of your education. I have no control over that. All I am is a guiding sword in that sense. So I do use it as a way of, yes, you can use it to make the paper look good, check your grammar and everything like that. That's it's perfect, but don't use it to think for you. Still
Mm-hmm.
put in your ideas. Still get your ideas out. They'll structure it, but get your ideas out and remember how you felt. Because that feeling is what will enable you to grow and become a productive member of society in the future.
That's an
Thank,
excellent point. Can
yeah.
I just extend
Sure,
from
sure,
what
sure.
Dr. Green was saying? Is that I did give actually a university student. I'm also working with uh, a TV college or university out of Nigeria, and I gave a creative assignment to one student, and I asked them to create a storyboard and a script for a potential program that we may be producing for the network. And I could tell once it was submitted that it was all chat GPT'd, so to speak. So I said, okay, I see how you structured it. I didn't let on that I was aware of the chat GPT, but I said, okay, take that and create the actual video. And it stopped there. She was stumped, didn't know how to take what was programmed for her and use creative ability and critical thinking to translate that into an outcome. So that was a learning for me, that there's a dependence or maybe a codependence on the technology that we have to be aware of as educators. So I had to find another way, but just to kind of underscore what you're saying, Dr. Kareem.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that. So both of you brought up the issue of the um, the inability for mainstream decision makers or whatever to find Black women credible in in the tech sector in terms of their abilities, in terms of their ideas, etc. So a few years back, there was the film Hidden Figures, right? And for whatever reason, after that film came out, uh, the mainstream, all of a sudden, it's almost like they were quote unquote discovering Black contributions to the development of certain technologies. In this case, it was space exploration, right? The NASA. Do you think that, have you seen, let's just put it this way, have you seen uh, an impact in terms of interest in on the part of Black female students in getting into STEM fields? We'll start with the sociologist,
Yeah.
Dr. Cone Sanchez.
I view it like there is always it goes up and down. So it's the same thing when I make reference when I say, and I'm not speaking about students' interest. I'm talking about the collective consciousness interest, because that's how it gets manifested into students and ways of thinking. So whenever there's a movie, whenever there's a highlight, whether it's, I don't want to use this, but I'm going to use it, George Floyd's murder. All of a sudden, Black consciousness was prevalent. Everybody wanted to talk about EDI. Everybody was interested about Black myth. But then it goes down. Then it goes back up. Then it goes down. Then it goes back up. So the instability of the intellectual respect that comes along with Blackness is my concern as a sociologist. This is how I would say it. Because why does it take a trauma in order for us to become visible? What does it take a movie in order for us to become visible? Inventors, creators, engineers were there years and decades. The concern, it goes beyond that, is the credibility in which is associated with Blackness. So when we examine that component in itself, there's a dehumanization that comes with that concept. And that is linked to credibility. That is linked to value. That is linked to assessing the importance of the information that's being revealed. The When we point it out, it is oh my God, really? That information was always prevalent. So to answer your question, has there been an increase in STEM's research? Students have always been interested in these various fields. Are they being retained in the field? Are they receiving funding? Are they being supported? These are the essential qualifications. Is the infrastructure able to provide the support that is needed for them to stay in the field? The interest has always been there. The global interest becomes aware when there's a trauma associated. All of a sudden, everybody's awake, and all of a sudden, there's a reawakening or reawareness of discrimination or disparities. But that in itself is there. My concern is the interest of the students, how to provide them with these guidance and these supports is through mentorship, is through funding, is through these different avenues that are there in order to keep them, for them to complete the actual studies that they're in. So the interest has always been there.
Mm-hmm. Dr.
That would
Clark?
be my response, just a
Yeah.
lengthy one.
No, thanks for that. Dr. Clark?
Thank you for that question. And yes, the example you gave of Hidden Figures and the women and their purpose and their mission becomes trending, right? So it's like, okay, there's this incredible interest about their lives. However, as Dr. Karine was saying, well, the information was already there, it was already made public, and there are many others like these incredible women. So that, that's what ties in with my interest in Black history and notable figures and bringing that information to light. What I see happening too with accomplished women who are given an opportunity once they pass the value of being underestimated. Okay, why are you here in this space? Oh, we see that there are people who are accomplished. We're going to give you a chance, but there's a high level of scrutiny, I think, when women pass these sort of spaces, and the scrutiny, I think, is measured in a way that other counterparts don't have to deal with. The metrics are not the same outside of that community. But for Black women, once they show up in these spaces, particularly media, that there's a lot more that is expected from them, and they can't make mistakes.
Yes.
Can't make mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're the first to be hired in that respect, and first to,
be
you know
fired.
what? It's been really nice having you.
Yeah.
So in my own experience, I was actually given an opportunity for mainstream media, and I was under the same type of scrutiny. And I just said, you know what? It's been a slice. Adios. And I became an independent producer so that I could offer my wisdom, open the door for other people who did not maybe fit the bill for other type of mainstream audiences to come in and to be authentic and to have that storytelling opportunity through the show. And that's why it was launched. And then the other part of it too, in supporting people of color, Black women and men, is to have organizations support them, invest in access. So access means access to funding, mentorship, networks, and training. Very important.
Yeah, thanks for that. We're going to go back to that a little later on. Dr. Kuhn Sanchez, so Nikki gave an example of her response to being evaluated unfairly, etc. Her response was, okay, I'm going to do my own thing, right? But if you're in corporate and in an institution, advocating for yourself, making your value known, how do you go about that as a Black woman in the tech sector? How do you do that?
There's various approaches depending on the services that you're providing, but overall, I would say copyright, ensuring that your ideas, that your intellectual ability, um, your intellectual property is reflective of the work that you're doing. Because one thing within these sectors is that they love stealing. And they love stealing ideas and passing it off as their own, and credit is never given back to you. Building your community, making sure that you have a strong community. The community does not reflect your coworkers. I'm talking about communities that are outside. Although that we might be fragmented, we don't necessarily know where everybody's situated. For example, the platform we're using today is a form of community because there's a huge community of Black excellence that are available to us. Is knowing where to go and seek this knowledge and where to go and look for these professionals. Building your community, find your lawyers, find your advocacy, find your teachers, find your mentors. They are there. They always have been there. It's just building that sense of belonging for you and assessing your needs, and they will become aligned. But how to maneuver these spaces, I would say, yes, you can resist. You can definitely do your own thing. I think we've all gotten to that point. I've developed my own consultant firm as well, just because it's so there's this barrier, and I call it a glass ceiling effect. Well, it's this study that's been done. You can only reach a certain point, even if you're able to maneuver certain spaces. They never want you to pass them. What that means is that that level of hierarchy, it hits a platform where you could only get there, and you must be in full compliance. Like we said earlier, you cannot make a mistake, you cannot be sick, you cannot speak in a certain tone, you cannot behave in a certain way that's a threat to them. And when I say to them, I'm talking about the white norms that are within the space of work. All of these factors I have developed the concept of duplicity of consciousness in the research that I've done. So what I refer to is having to maneuver two spaces and have to duplicate your consciousness in order to know how to behave in certain ways. One being at work within the reflection of white norms, and one being within your community. We have developed these norms without consciously being aware of that. That's part of the process. And Canada has something that is very different from other countries. Canada has another concept in which I developed, which is called polite racism. Because they give you the illusion that they are welcoming you in. But the welcoming in and this inclusion is based on normative restrictions. And people are not fully aware of that. It's like, well, they hired us. That doesn't mean anything. There's rules that apply to you that don't apply to other people. And this is why I say it's so hard to detect. And the research that I've done, I can put it on there. It's first and second generation Jamaican and Haitians, and how they have become victims of this polite racism, and how it has developed into the concept, like I said earlier, duplicity of consciousness. How do you maneuver these spaces without compromising your dignity, integrity, and self-worth in the process? These are the questions that we really have to do and reflect on ourselves. So yes, building your network. And when I say building your network, it's getting people that are within your space to uplift you. So if you need a copyright lawyer, you're going to go look for a Black copyright lawyer. You'll find one. They're there. You need help to structure your website. There's a bunch of technology texts that are available within the Black community. They're there. Give the money back to the community, uplift the community back, and create that sense of collectiveness.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much for that. And that speaks to the fact that even though this technological revolution was supposed to democratize our lives in some way, it's done the opposite. It's reproduced the hierarchy and these norms that keep certain groups down or away from this sector. So since it was mentioned a few times, let's talk about, you talked about, Dr. Cone Sanchez, the importance of networking and mentorship. And I'd like Dr. Clark to talk about how she's been doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like also to, if I can share, the kind of an extension of what Dr. Karine was saying. The example I have for you is my own daughter going into post-secondary education and learning broadcast journalism, which I'm very happy and proud that she did that. However, as part of her practicum, she was asked to create some kind of news story, and she was there being filmed, and she had her hair in a beautiful afro, beautiful curls, and she delivered with excellence. And after that exercise, her teacher pulled her aside and she said, "Listen, love what you did, but your hair is a little bit too fun for the real world experience." So my daughter replied to her, "How can something growing naturally out of my head be considered fun? This is who I am." So she challenged the norm or the metrics of what a reporter is supposed to look like in that space. And very often, people will say things or they'll remember that those kind of sentiments shared to them. So overcoming discouragement. And the way to do that is to have a community. How to leverage in technology in that field is first really understand the digital tools available to you right now, and they keep changing, so you have to stay fresh. Have a team of people who can keep you alerted as to what is new. You have to stay fresh because the frequency of the shifts are there, but there's so many digital tools available that are free or low cost, so take advantage of them and then start creating your content. Or, I'm talking about people in the media space, create your content, promote your brand. It'll help you in so many ways. The second thing is build your digital presence early. So having a strong online identity, that's your new business card. And entrepreneurs can break into closed spaces simply by showing up consistently. Be consistent and authentically online. And then don't build alone. Have a community, join an innovation ecosystem, very much like the platform that we're on. I had the honor and privilege to create innovation hubs on a project a year or so ago to launch innovation hubs, particularly for Black entrepreneurs across Canada. So that meant that Black entrepreneurs could go in and feel at ease to ask questions that may not have been able to be answered in other spaces, and to get access to funding and real mentorship and real experience. So that is extremely important. And then the other part of it is to find ways to embrace who you are, having a place where you can reflect, having systems where you can operate through self-care. You can build without, that's fine, but you also have to make sure that you take care of yourself, building within. And then sometimes you're going to be your own cheerleader in the beginning of your project. You won't have all those external voices giving you the cheers that you need. You have to have intrinsic value. So that's what I can tell
Yeah,
you.
thanks for that. And I'd like to remind our audience that we are monitoring the chat. So if you've got questions, feel free to send us your comments or your questions. There's an interesting comment here. Sylvia says, we continue to teach appropriate use of the various AI tools so that all of us see it as part of our toolkit. We need to stay ahead by taking leadership in the use of the AI and by getting the content out in the internet world about us so that the searchers find us. This gets back to the algorithms, right, Dr. Cone Sanchez? Do you find that we're producing enough content about Black lived experiences, Black people, Black history,
We have
Black
we have,
contributions? Yeah.
we have countless journals that talk about these things. The issue is not the content. The issue is how do we make it visible and make it and mobilize the knowledge in the classroom and beyond. That's what creates algorithms. So they would take, you have people talking about racism that are white and they would get published everywhere. You have the same Black people that would make a comment about racism and it does not get the same recognition. How do we get that information out and have it mobilized across globally or nationally or internationally? Is what the question, because algorithm will pick up on the monetization of the information that's being revealed. The information is there. There's the Dubois Journal. There's the Black Identity Journal. There's the Black Studies Journal. There's Black Associations. There's countless forms of content and information that are across the board. Is the restriction in the power and what becomes visible versus what is invisible within the market? That is the main question that we should be asking ourselves.
Nicola has a related question slash comment about the racial bias embedded in algorithmic design. She wants to know what concrete accountability mechanisms should technology companies be required, so now we're talking about policy, to implement to prevent systemic over-policing and marginalization of Black users in digital spaces. Any ideas? Accountability.
Definitely accountability.
Other than boycotting certain, companies who have proven to engage in this kind of racism, like what else can be done to hold them accountable?
That's a great question.
I think it's a kind of a complicated question to answer because the tech sector is so large, and it's gonna be kind of difficult to pinpoint exactly where we can assess the sense of accountability, because accountability is reflection of power.
Yes.
So who are the people that are administrating these changes and these policies? It reflects to the policymakers. That's really where we're going to be able to assess the way we have somebody accountable. Yes, we can boycott, but we can also bring awareness to the situation, and that's the collective consciousness of the people that can be able to do that. Is being able to create awareness in situations that are less visible in the spaces that are dominating the field of the tech at this point.
Yeah. So
I
online
think,
campaigns to raise
absolutely.
awareness. Dr. Clark?
Yeah, absolutely. So, two points. There's a lack of representation in AI development. So that would lend to, if we have more Black professionals, especially Black women, who are greatly underrepresented in this area, maybe we could have more equity building in AI research, product design, engineering teams, and executive decision making. So if we allow for more investment in STEM, particularly for Black women, maybe that can even out the playing field. But we need to definitely have the representation there.
I agree that representation matters, but we also need to retain. So having the retention and having the voices heard and having the intellectual property of these innovative, creative Black women
protected
is also essential. It goes a little beyond just representation. I feel like we use that so lightly in the sense of, okay, we'll just put a Black body in a boardroom and there equality has happened. Like, it's beyond that. Like, how do I elevate, and how do I transfer over your knowledge into concrete policy changes that is reflective of lived realities and experiences of our community, in this case that we're speaking of?
Are there organizations that have been working specifically on this issue that you know of? Or it's just researchers?
We all do our parts, whether it's researchers that reveal data, such as myself, whether it's Dr. Nikki Clark that has a talk show host that is in the tech. That in itself is a representation. All of that is systematically creating change. There's not a one identified format. We have done so many different things in order to uplift our voices. The issue is, how do we come collectively together in order to unite, in order to create a real change, not fragmented and spaced out. And this is why shows and platforms as we are using as here is one aspect. But how do we collectively join together in order to systematically create these changes? Policymakers are still making decisions. Yes, we want to be in the boardroom and assist, but that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, speaking of coming together, can you suggest some organizations that cater to Blacks and Black women in tech?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, there are a myriad of great organizations that support women in STEM. There's the Canadian Black Chamber of Commerce, and they did have, and I believe they still continue to have, a STEM program.
Mm-hmm.
um, Focuses on supporting Black women in that area. And I think you can just go tap on to Google, or and type in some of the Black organizations. But
Black
that's one.
Girls Code.
Black Girls Code, absolutely. I'm just trying to think of some others. But it comes down to having access to these spaces. It's really important to invest in them. We see, some government spaces that are putting money into intentional spaces to support Black entrepreneurs in the STEM space. So they're not many, but it's growing in attention, and growing in availability. So I just like to see more of it.
So I'll just mention a few for our audience. I did mention Black Girls Code, which focuses specifically on girls and getting them into coding, programming, and that sort of thing. The Black Tech Pipeline, for example, as well, for networking and mentorship opportunities. Black Professionals in Tech Network. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They have a lot of events in Toronto. I know that for a fact. Accelerate Her Future is a program, one of those government-funded programs that you're talking about. Black Data Processing Associates as well. Black Code Collective, Black Women Talk Tech, and Hack the Hood. Those are just some uh, examples as well. Um, I'm trying to. Oh, okay. I see a comment from Marjorie, who finds that AI forces its way to the top of general search engine. Yeah, so how do you this is a bit of a technical thing. How can you get yourself to the top of a search engine? Like how does like listing work in a search engine? Do either of you know?
Um, I mean, just speaking like that, I think there's ways of doing it. They say that getting yourself out there, social media is one way
Hmm.
that you can get engaging. Publishing on very high level newspapers, articles. Depending on the platform that you're using, it's they say consistency in whatever platform you're using. So being consistent on your post is gonna create some sort of algorithm for you.
Hmm. Okay.
Tracking three or four metrics that are keywords that you'll be able to that are very popular within sequence. That's going to be they're gonna pick up the algorithm will pick up on those keywords, hashtags, stuff like that, in order to create some sort of engagement with the larger community that whatever services and communities that you're thinking of.
Yeah, absolutely. The
Hmm.
meta tags, um, the intentional keywords, like you mentioned, Dr. Kareen, can definitely. There's also a science behind the keyword. So you can look up a keyword, for example, innovation, and find out how popular it is, like how many hits, or how many sites will go towards that word when looking up something. So you would see the frequency of the word and how popular it is, and then you'd be very intentional to use that on your site or your branding. So yeah, hashtags, meta tags are very important to bring you to the top, or closer to the top, in terms of the search.
Also, get yourself out there. Don't shy. Don't dim your light. Don't
Mm,
shy away from your values. Don't undermine yourself because we can be our worst enemies in that way. Put yourself out there. Get involved in conferences. Get involved in social activities. Get involved in mentorship. Don't assume that you know everything. We're always growing and learning. And even me as a doctor, and I'm sure Nikki Clark as a doctor herself, we're still in the process. She mentioned earlier, we're still in a learning process. We never know
right.
it all. So
Hmm.
assume learning doesn't stop. Generations change, technology change, people evolve, things evolve. Is getting the ongoing, getting yourself involved with the momentum of the society and how things change. Don't withdraw yourself and isolate yourself. Speak up, get yourself out there. Your voice matters, your ideas matters, your worth and your value is not a reflection of all that, but they matter. They matter. And if you feel that this is something that you're passionate about and that you want to be heard, there's ways of going around that. One is, yes, building your network, but building your network is also trusting in yourself. It's trusting in the value that that you're pouring out into the society. Because eventually someone will connect with you, and then that someone will, word of mouth will translate to somebody else will connect with you, and it will just, the domino effect will happen. So it has to come from within. You have to honestly believe in the cause that you're advocating for, or the situation in which you want to bring forward. And then this everybody will follow suit.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
importance of being open to continuous, lifelong learning when it comes to tech. Nikki?
yeah, that's a wonderful, profound sharing, Dr. Kareen, because I think Sarah, you brought it up in the beginning about COVID, how COVID, changed so many experiences. But when it came to the media space, we had to do the pivot and to look at ways of still creating the storytelling platform. And I had to use YouTube or maybe Instagram. So what that meant was, yeah, constantly refreshing your knowledge. What are the new trends? You have to stay on top of all of that, and yeah, then you'll see incredible results. But never staying complacent and comfortable. I think for me, I've always been someone who thinks outside the box, and I accept the challenges and maybe the discomfort when it comes to change. So yeah, the status quo needs to be pushed back and allowed for change to happen. I didn't know that I was going to go from being a college instructor to doing what I do in opening up pathways in media. But I'm glad that I answered that challenge. And here we are now. I'm at the point where I really want to be intentional about legacy making so that there's a formula that I've learned that I could pass on to the next generation.
Hmm. I'm seeing some excellent comments here. Somebody did mention about the search engine optimization,
Hmm.
which increases the quality and quantity of
Hmm.
organic traffic to a
Yes.
website by improving the visibility to search engines like Google. Thank you very much, Takia, for that. And Deanne says a multi-prong approach is what will be affecting training emotional and financial support, employment, as well as having a background team. You talked about, both of you actually talked about that, the team, the support, who will do the immediate constant search when items are posted, launched, so as to get topics and items pushed to the top. So I guess the importance of you can't do everything yourself, basically.
Delegate.
Both of
Delegate.
you spoke to that. You have to be willing to be surrounded by a team and support system. So as we conclude this conversation, are you optimistic about the improved representation of Black women in the tech sector?
I will always be optimistic. Otherwise, I don't have my purpose has folded. I will always be optimistic um, because I know technology does shape the future, but equity determines who gets in and who doesn't. And the purpose of us having these discussions is to create awareness and to create a platform. We can't consume without helping. You can't just take without giving. So there's also a responsibility and a sense of accountability that we have to have within our community. If and Dr. Nikki Clark couldn't have said it better earlier when she told her story. She gives people chances by coming on her show and gave this person a chance who's a mega
The
superstar
Weeknd
now.
is one of the
The Weeknd, one
best-selling
of the best
artists
selling
of
artists
all time
time. So
globally.
just why? Because she gave a chance.
Yes.
This is my point. My point is we have to give each other chances. We have to give other people chances. Expressing and expanding space is also part of the process.
Yes. Thanks for that. And Dr. Clark, your closing thought?
Yes, well, I'm just really encouraged by this conversation. I think this is a great start, and would love to have a series of these continue, because I think ideas sometimes are built upon a community, and we need to have different voices so that we can shape our reality. But I have to say that it's okay to dare to dream. Sometimes what is available out there in terms of, what we're used to, you might be that one person to change everything in STEM, change everything in tech, or even the media space. And it's okay to be audacious. Be audacious.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that. And I'd like to pay tribute to the Black women who were audacious, who invented the GPS, for example. That's a Black woman right there. The gentleman who invented the traffic light, and many Black women involved in, telephone technology, some of the computer technology that we use. And thank you both for this wonderful conversation and for your insights. I hope the audience gained a lot from your insights and will be inspired to go out in the community and share. Thank you very much, all of you, for participating and tuning in.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment. It's your time. You stood tall and now you see. Stand